The rain came down the way grief does, sudden, heavy, and unapologetic. By the time the doorbell rang, the doormat had given up pretending to be dry. I opened the door with a hand that had not stopped shaking since 3:07 p.m., 5 years ago. "Delivery for Claire Moran," the postman said, his hood dripping. He held a padded envelope like it might bite him. "No return address. But the sender's name is on the slip." He flicked water off his fingers and read it again, as if the letters might rearrange into something reasonable. Evan Hale. The name did what thunder couldn't. It stopped my breath. I almost asked him to say it a second time, to prove my ears were liars. Instead, I nodded, signed, and shut the door before the world could see the way my mouth trembled around silence. On the kitchen table, the envelope looked ordinary. Beige, bubbled, boring. I stared at it the way you stare at a house you once lived in, knowing what's inside is the past, and still wanting the key. Rain ticked against the window, slow at first, then faster, then soft again, as if the storm itself remembered it was part of our story. I told myself it was a prank, a coincidence, a different Evan, a different life. I told myself a dozen soft lies and picked up the scissors anyway. Inside was a single cream-colored envelope, sealed in a way only Evan would have sealed anything too careful, too precise, as if neatness could save a life. My name was written in his narrow handwriting, all angles and restraint. The J in my middle initial looped once, the way I used to tease him for being secretly romantic. He would roll his eyes and say, "That's just how my hand moves, June." June the summer he named inside me, the nickname no one else used. I pressed the paper to my mouth, then pulled it away as if I could bruise it. I did not cry right away. Grief has etiquette. It pauses at the threshold like a guest who knows the house well. The letter slid out with a soft whisper. "June, if this finds you, it means the rain did what I couldn't. It kept a promise. You always said rain remembers everything. I am asking it to remember us. Don't be angry. Or be angry. I can't argue with you from here. There's a thing I never told you about the day before the bridge. I thought I had time to tell it right. I was wrong. EPE. I read it twice, then a third time. Because the mind is generous with miracles it desperately wants. The bridge. The day before the bridge. There were things from that week we never spoke about because the past has bones you mustn't dig up. And yet here I was, knuckle deep in old ground. Outside, the rain picked up, 1,000 fingers strumming the roof. I carried the letter to the living room like it might collapse if I moved too quickly. The couch sighed under me the way it did when we used to watch storms. His feet hooked under mine, our world small and safe and temporary. He would count seconds between lightning and thunder like a child, then kiss my shoulder at number 5. "Close enough to belong," he'd say. A second sheet fell from the envelope, smaller, folded twice. On it he had drawn a crude map. Our building, the alley, the tiny mailbox where we hid letters the summer we pretended to be strangers. We were always inventing ways to love each other. Harder letters traded at midnight. Codes tapped on the window pane. 3 taps "I love you." 2 taps "I'm here." 1 goodnight umbrella handles, tied with fishing line, because buying a new one felt like betrayal of the rain that raised us. At the corner of the map, he had written, "Go when it rains, at 6 o'clock. Bring the ugly umbrella." Only he called it ugly. It was a yellow thing with faded bees crawling across it, 3 missing, 1 smudged into a bruise. We had patched the fabric with clear tape the night the wind almost broke it in half. "It's ugly," he insisted. "It's ours," I answered. That had been the end of the argument, and the beginning of 1,000 small vows. I looked at the clock, 5:54. Time does not walk, it trips. I found the umbrella behind the coats. It still smelled faintly of wet wool and lemon cleaner. My fingers knew the button without my eyes. When it sprang open in the doorway, its ribs shivered like a startled animal. "Close enough to belong," I whispered to him, to the part of me that had built a life out of what we didn't get to keep. The alley had not changed. The brick still slouched. The drain still muttered. The rain threaded itself between fire escape rungs and fell on my cheeks with that first sip of tea heat that confuses comfort with pain. At the far end, tucked behind the trash bins, The narrow mailbox weighted one we'd found by accident, rust scabbing its edges, the lock long gone. We used to leave each other postcards there, even when we lived in the same apartment, claiming ink could say what mouths sometimes couldn't. There was an envelope inside. My name again. The same careful hand. I did not feel my knees until later, when they ached in bed. I broke the seal there in the alley, under the hive of yellow bees. June. If you made it to the box, you're still braver than me. You always were. The day before the bridge, I went to see Dr. M. I didn't tell you because you would have come, and I needed to pretend I could hold the bad news alone. He said the scans were not alarming yet. Yet is a word that splits a life in two, before and after. I bought lemons. I don't know why I am telling you that. You were teaching me how to make the tart without a recipe. I wanted it to be a surprise. I am writing these because, if the yet becomes now, I don't want your last memory of me to be water and glass. I want it to be letters and rain. Forgive me for the parts I kept. I was saving them for a better day. I stopped reading there because language can only carry so much weight before it cracks. The rain softened, as if humiliated by its own performance. I leaned my forehead against the cold metal of the box and thought, with an absurd clarity, we still have the lemons. On the walk back, I tried to hate him for the secrecy, the doctor, the bridge. Love refused. Love sat stubbornly at the table, elbows planted, saying, he bought lemons. Sometimes grief is a courtroom where love is both judge and ruined witness. In the doorway, I tapped the window glass. 1, 2, 3. Habit is a kind of haunting. No answer came, of course. Still, the silence rearranged itself around the sound, making room. I made the tart, or something like it. I whisked with the letter folded on the counter, butter listening, sugar turning rivers low into yellow light. The oven fogged the kitchen window. The storm fogged the world. When I cracked the final egg, I thought of the day we picked out this bowl. Him complaining about price and me lecturing about forever tools. He kissed me then. In the aisle, between colanders and cake tins. Fine, he said, forever. When the tart set and the rain paused, the house felt like it had held its breath with me, and was only now remembering how to exhale. I sliced a piece too soon, the filling still warm, and carried it to the table with the letter. I ate standing up, like a person hiding from their own hunger. Thunder walked away over the hills. Dishes clicked into stacks. The oven light went black. I washed my hands and found lemon under my nails, bright and stubborn. It felt like proof. I read the letter again, then searched the envelope for anything else, an address, a postmark clue, the usual breadcrumbs. There was only a line I had missed at the bottom, smaller, almost shy. If it rains on Thursday, check the box again. If it doesn't, wait. Rain remembers. It will come, Thursday, in 2 days. I folded the umbrella by the door, carefully, the way he would have. I smoothed the bees. I turned off the kitchen light and stood a while in our old dark where the ghosts of our arguments and apologies still paced in polite circles, not wanting to be seen. In bed, sleep refused, me and memory replaced it. The bridge, which I try not to think about the way the railing wore a greener coat of paint that month, the way sirens tried to outsing the storm, the kindness of a stranger's bad umbrella, failing both of us in the wind. People tell you there are last words you will always wish you had said. They are right. But there are also last sounds, the soft insistence of rain on denim, the click of a seatbelt you didn't fasten, the awkward cough of a man who will never grow into the years he was owed. At 3:07 a.m., the hour that marks an anniversary, my bones remember even when my mind pretends not to. I got up and went to the window. The street was wet again, although the sky had not decided to declare it. A cat startled under a car. Somewhere a door closed with care. Close enough to belong, I said to the glass, to the night, to whatever stood just out of sight and refused to leave me useless. I folded the letter and slid it under my pillow the way children hide teeth in hope of harmless magic. Under my cheek, the paper warmed, an animal making itself at home. If I dreamt, I do not recall it. Only this remains, a feeling like a palm over mine, guiding it toward some small door inside the dark. And a voice, almost a memory, almost rain. Wait for Thursday. It rained again on Thursday. Not the soft kind that tiptoes against glass, but the kind that drags its feet through the streets, heavy and slow, as if mourning something only it remembers. I stood by the window, the yellow umbrella resting against my leg like an old dog that still waits for its master's whistle. The bees on its fabric looked duller now, their wings faded by time and too many storms. I traced one with my fingertip until my reflection blurred in the glass. It was 5:58 p.m. The sky was bruised blue, the color of before, the kind of sky that belonged to the day everything ended. I shouldn't have gone back. But grief doesn't ask for permission, it writes invitations in thunder. The alley looked the same as it did on Monday, only wetter. The puddles reflected the flicker of neon signs from the diner at the corner, smearing colors like oil paint. I reached the mailbox, breath catching with a small, stubborn hope that I pretended wasn't hope. And there it was. Another envelope. Same cream paper. Same handwriting. My heart did what it always did when his name appeared, broke politely. I tore it open under the rain. The ink had bled a little, like tears trying to hide. June. You used to say the rain spoke my name when it hit the window just right. Maybe that's why I always loved storms. It was the only time I felt close enough to hear you listen. If you're reading this, I need you to go to the bridge. The one that doesn't exist anymore. There's something there I couldn't leave behind. The bridge. The one they tore down after the accident. I hadn't gone back not once. Not to the construction site, not to the river, not even in dreams. But the moment I read his words, I heard it. That low hum beneath the rain, the way it used to sound when the wind passed through the steel beams like a voice calling home. My body moved before my courage could catch up. The umbrella opened with a sigh, the same old bees trembling as if they too remembered him. The bridge was gone, but the memory wasn't. In its place now stood a wide expanse of gravel and weeds, fenced off by a sagging strip of warning tape. The river still flowed beneath, dark and patient. I stopped at the edge of the barrier. The rain fell harder, tracing rivers down my coat. The world smelled of rust and longing. I whispered, I'm here. Just in case ghosts had better hearing than the living. A small figure stood by the railings, remains a boy, maybe 10, clutching a soaked paper boat. He looked at me, wide-eyed, as if I were the ghost. Are you okay? I asked. He nodded. My dad says the river keeps secrets. Then he dropped the boat into the water. It spun once, twice, and vanished under the current. When I looked back up, the boy was gone. Only then did I see it half buried in the mud near the fence. A small tin box, rusted but intact. My heart stumbled. I knelt, brushing mud away until my fingers trembled on its cold surface. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was another letter. And something else, a photograph. The photo was of us. Standing on that bridge, 5 years ago. He was laughing, head tilted back, hair soaked, eyes bright with the kind of happiness that always comes right before tragedy. I was holding the yellow umbrella, half broken, both of us soaked to the bone. On the back, he had written, "The day it rained too hard for forever." My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I unfolded the letter. June, if you found this, then you're already braver than the rain. I left this photo here because I wanted the river to remember us. It keeps what people can't. You once said every drop that falls carries a piece of someone's memory. Maybe that's why I loved watching it fall, because each one brought you back to me, even for a second. The truth is, I wasn't supposed to drive that night. I wasn't supposed to go. I lied when I said it was work. I was going to the hospital. The words blurred. Not from the rain this time, but from me. I sank to my knees. The gravel pressed cruelly into my palms. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled a soft reprimand, or maybe applause. I didn't know. The hospital? He went alone, and never came back. All this time, I thought the bridge had taken him. But maybe it was the fear of letting me see him weak, sick, breakable. The rain slowed, as if listening. I pressed the photo to my chest, the paper damp and trembling with me. And for a brief second, I swore I heard it again, the rain, whispering his name, not just to me, but to the world that forgot. Evan? It sounded like forgiveness. Or maybe it was just thunder. Either way, I answered. I remember. And the river, as if relieved, carried the rest away. The rain had stopped by morning, but its scent lingered like someone who left without taking their memory. The world outside was dripping, shimmering, freshly washed but not clean. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the bridge or what was left of it, and his handwriting. The way he wrote my name like a secret he was afraid to lose. I made coffee I didn't drink, toast I didn't eat. I folded the yellow umbrella and placed it by the door, as if it too deserved rest after last night. The letter lay open on the kitchen table. Its edges had curled from the damp, its words still whispering beneath the paper. I couldn't stop staring at the last line. I was going to the hospital. What kind of sickness hides behind love? And what kind of love hides behind silence? Around noon, I went through the old box where I kept everything that still hurt to touch: movie tickets, postcards, his old lighter, the bracelet he once tied around my wrist at the fair, saying, "If it breaks, it means we're free." It never broke. Neither did I. And that scared me. Because breaking would have meant it was finally over. As I dug through the box, I found something I didn't remember keeping. A small cassette tape labeled E1. My breath caught. Evan never recorded anything. He hated his voice on tape. There was an old player in the closet, half buried under a tangle of forgotten chargers. The battery still worked. I pressed play. A faint hiss, then static. Then his voice, low, tired, familiar. "June, if you're hearing this, I guess I didn't make it to Friday. Don't panic, okay? You always said I sound like I'm about to confess to a murder when I talk on tape." A soft laugh. "I just wanted to keep something of me that could speak, even when I can't. They said it might spread. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to turn our days into countdowns." A pause, breathing shakily. "You always knew the rain before it came. Maybe that's why I fell in love with you. You never waited for the sky to tell you it was time. You just knew. So if the rain comes and you hear me, don't be afraid. It's just me remembering you." The tape clicked off. I didn't realize I'd been crying until the sound of a drop hit the recorder. Tears or rain? I couldn't tell. I pressed rewind, just to hear him breathe again. That evening, the rain returned, sudden and impatient. As if summoned, I checked the mailbox before I could talk myself out of it. There was another letter. Same cream paper. Same handwriting. Only this time, the envelope was dry. And that terrified me more than anything. Inside was a single page. The ink looked freshly written. "June, do you remember the tape? I left it in the old box under your bed. You probably found it by now. Funny how the future and the past meet in the same rain. You once told me that if love is real, it leaves echoes. I think that's what I am now, an echo. Listen to me, June. Don't go to the hospital. Not yet. Wait for the next rain. I'll explain everything then." My heart stuttered. I looked around the apartment, the table, the windows, the dripping ceiling. Everything was still. But the air felt different, like someone had just been here. I checked under the bed. The box sat there, exactly where I'd left it. The cassette player still on top. But the tape was gone. I dropped to my knees, searching under blankets, inside drawers, behind the nightstand. Nothing. Only the faint smell of lemon and rain. When I turned back toward the window, the lights flickered once. Outside, thunder rolled over the city, slow and deep like a voice I used to know. "Evan," I whispered. The room answered with silence. And then 3 soft taps on the glass. 1, 2, 3. Our old code. "I love you." I froze. My hand lifted on its own, pressing against the window pane, palm to rain. "I'm here," I said. Somewhere beyond the reflection, I swore I saw him, his outline faint as mist, lips moving soundlessly. But then the lightning came, and he was gone. Only the window remained, warm where I'd touched it. That night, I placed all 3 letters on my nightstand. They seemed to hum faintly, as if whispering to one another when I wasn't looking. I left the light on and whispered into the quiet. "You're not an echo, Evan. You're what the rain remembers." And the rain, steady and unending, tapped the glass in reply. The next morning, the world was too quiet. Even the rain had gone hoarse. I woke to the faint scent of lemon impossible, since I hadn't cooked anything since the tart. The air felt touched, rearranged, like someone had walked through the room while I slept. All 3 letters lay exactly where I'd left them. Except now, the top one was turned over. A single line had been added at the bottom, in the same familiar hand. June, don't cry at the hospital, just listen. My heart clenched so hard it hurt to breathe. There were 100 ways to explain it: sleepwalking, exhaustion, grief, hallucinations, but none of them could write in his handwriting. I packed the letters into my coat pocket, and despite the warning, I went to the hospital. The building had changed. New paint, new nurses, same ghosts. At the reception desk, I asked, "Evan Hale. Records?" The nurse blinked at me, polite confusion behind her glasses. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't keep files that old in the system. You'd need medical archives." She pointed me to a narrow door at the end of the hall, a place that smelled of dust and disinfectant. The archivist was a man in his 50s with coffee breath and kind eyes. He typed slowly, like each name might explode. "Hey, Evan," he murmured. A pause. Then, admitted June 12th, discharged at June 13th. "That's the night of the accident, isn't it?" "Yes." He looked up. "You were the contact person." Claire Moran. Hearing my name from a stranger's mouth felt like hearing my own ghost. He turned the screen slightly toward me. Diagnosis: diffuse astrocytoma, high grade. Notes: patient declined further treatment. Signed discharge against medical advice. My knees went soft. He'd known he was dying long before the bridge. The archivist hesitated. "There's something attached, a digital note. Old format, but you can play it." He clicked. The speakers crackled. Then his voice. "If this message is being opened, it means she came. I told her not to, but she always finds her way through storms." Shaky breath. "June, I didn't tell you because I wanted one last day that wasn't about dying. I wanted to watch you laugh at the rain and pretend the world still belonged to us. That day on the bridge, I wasn't running away. I was running toward the last moment I could still be yours without you feeling sorry for me." Pause. The car skidded. The guardrail broke. "But don't think of that. Think of the lemons. The tart. The way you said forever doesn't have to last to be real. You were right. I'm sorry. I left first." The recording ended with a soft exhale, like a sigh lost in rain. I don't remember falling, but the floor caught me gently. Outside, it had started to drizzle again. The world blurred through the tears I refused to wipe. At the edge of the parking lot stood a small tree, newly planted, its leaves trembling. A silver plaque at its base read, "In memory of Evan Hale. He taught us that kindness survives the rain." My fingers traced the letters. They were cold, and yet somehow, they pulsed with life. I knelt beside it, the wet earth soaking into my jeans. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. A drop fell on my cheek, warm, not cold. For a moment, I swore I heard his voice behind me. "Because I didn't want you to spend our love counting down." I turned, but there was only the rain, and still I smiled through it. Because love, I realized, doesn't vanish. It just changes its address. That night I left the hospital and walked all the way to the river. The city lights trembled on the water like they too were trying not to cry. I stood where the bridge used to be and whispered, "We forgot to say goodbye, didn't we?" The wind answered softly. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was me, remembering. Either way, the word goodbye never left my lips. Because between us, rain had always meant "see you soon." It started with a pulse. Soft, distant, almost shy-like, a heartbeat that had forgotten which body it belonged to. I woke to it before dawn, unsure if it came from a dream or from somewhere inside the walls. At first, I thought it was the rain again, but the rhythm was wrong, to steady, to human. Thump, thump, thump. I followed the sound through the apartment until I reached the table. The letters were gone. In their place sat my old cassette player. The tape was back inside. My fingers trembled as I pressed play. A hiss, then rain soft near, like someone breathing against the microphone. And underneath it, a slow pulse. Not mechanical, Not synthetic. Real. His voice came after a long pause. June, if you can hear this, it means the rain found you again. That's good. It always liked you more than me. A small laugh, the kind that used to live between kisses. What you're hearing isn't thunder. It's me. The monitor in my room had this steady beat, the one that told the nurses I was still here. I recorded it, not because I was afraid to die, but because I wanted you to know what my heart sounded like when it refused to stop loving you. The rain on the recording grew heavier. The heartbeat grew louder, syncing with my own until I couldn't tell which belonged to whom. Do you remember the night you fell asleep on the couch, and I said your breathing was the only song I wanted to learn? This is me keeping the promise. Silence followed, then one last beat, longer, slower, and gone. I pressed stop, but the room still throbbed with the echo of it. My hands went to my chest instinctively, as if to check if I was still the one making the sound. Outside, dawn bled slowly into gray. The street below shimmered with leftover rain, the kind that doesn't know whether to stay or go. I took the tape with me to the balcony. The air was cold enough to make me shiver, but not enough to stop me from listening again. This time, I pressed my ear to the speaker, and between the raindrops, I heard it, his heartbeat aligning with mine. Thump, thump, thump. I started counting, the way he used to count lightning. 5 beats, then thunder. Close enough to belong, I whispered. And something inside me eased. A knot I'd been holding since the bridge finally loosened. That night, I replayed the recording until I fell asleep. In my dream, I was back under the bridge's shadow. The rain fell, and Evan stood across from me, smiling the way he used to when he thought I wasn't looking. He reached out his hand. Do you hear it? He asked. What? It's carrying us. When I awoke, the tape had stopped again. But the sound didn't leave me. Every drop that hit the roof, every heartbeat under my ribs, they all spoke the same quiet language. He was still here. Not in flesh, not in sound, but in rhythm. The rhythm that keeps the rain remembering. The next rain came 3 days later. Quiet, cold, deliberate. It wasn't the kind of rain that wept. It watched, it remembered. By then, I had replayed the tape so many times that I could recite every pause, every breath between his words. Yet, somehow, that morning the sound felt different, like a whisper coming from beneath the floorboards. I followed it. Past the kitchen, past the cracked tiles, to the narrow space under the stairs that I had never cleaned since he died. Dust layered the wooden floor like old snow. And in the corner, behind a loose board, I found it. A small metal box, painted dark blue, the exact shade of his eyes, when he was lying to me about being fine. The lock had rusted away. I pried it open with a spoon. Inside were envelopes, dozens of them. All addressed to me. Each one dated a week apart. Each one sealed. The first was marked week 1. I opened it with trembling hands. The letter smelled faintly of rain and lemon peel. June, I don't know if you'll ever find these, but I had to write them anyway. There are things I couldn't say while I was still pretending to be brave. I'm not afraid of dying, Jin. I'm afraid of leaving the parts of you I'll never get to know. You once told me love isn't about staying. It's about leaving something gentle behind. So here's mine, E. I pressed the page to my chest until it wrinkled. The second letter was smaller. The handwriting slanted more, as if he had been tired. Week 2. You'll probably be angry by now. Good. Anger means you're still here. Do you remember the yellow umbrella? Don't throw it away. Even broken things can keep you dry when you believe in them. The third letter was smudged, the ink running like tears. Week 3, they told me it's spreading faster. I laughed. I always did the wrong thing when I was scared. Promise me you'll still laugh sometimes. Even if the world feels like it's made of glass. I couldn't keep count after that. The weeks blurred together as I opened envelope after envelope. 100 tiny versions of him, alive in every page. Some were poems, others were single sentences. One simply said, I miss you already. Another read, if you ever feel the rain stop mid-fall, that's me catching it for you. I read until the ink turned to fog through my tears. At the very bottom of the box was one last envelope. Unmarked. He hadn't dated it. The paper was heavier, the handwriting smaller, shakier. June, if you've reached this one, it means you've kept going. Thank you. You always were the one who walked through storms instead of waiting for them to end. I wanted to leave these letters sleeping here, under the house, where the rain can find them. Because I know you'd listen for it. And someday, when you've learned how to live again, you'll hear my heartbeat not as grief but as rhythm. Promise me you'll let the rain rest. Let me rest, too. I sat there for hours, listening, breathing, crying until the rain softened, and the floor beneath me turned warm. And when I finally stood, I whispered, "You can sleep now. I'll keep the rain awake for both of us." The box stayed open. The letters, breathing quietly like the hearts they once were. That night, I didn't play the tape. I didn't need to. The sound of his heartbeat was everywhere, in the dripping gutters, in the clock that refused to tick at the same pace, in my own pulse when I said his name. And outside, the rain fell steady and kind, as if guarding the place where his words slept. Where we slept. The storm came without warning. A sudden clap of thunder split the sky open, and the world fell into water. I was on my way home from the small grocery store, lemons in a paper bag, because somehow, I still bought them. Old habits don't die. They just keep breathing quietly when you're not looking. The wind snapped my umbrella inside out. Not the yellow one, the cheap black one I'd been using for months. I don't even know why I left the yellow one behind that day. Maybe I was afraid of breaking what was left of us. By the time I reached my building, I was soaked. The lobby light flickered once, twice, then steadied, as if the building itself sighed. And there, leaning against my apartment door, was the yellow umbrella. Dry, perfect. Waiting. My breath caught. The paper bag slipped from my hands, lemons rolling across the floor like small, bright memories. I knelt to touch it. The bees on the fabric looked brighter than I remembered, as if the rain had polished them clean. When I opened it, a folded note fell out. "June, you always said umbrellas were for hiding, but I think they were our way of staying brave. When it rains again, don't use it to run. Use it to walk. You'll see me where the light bends." That night, the wind howled around the windows, pulling at the glass like a restless ghost. I fell asleep clutching the umbrella, its handle warm against my palm. And then I was dreaming. We were back on the bridge, the one that no longer existed. But in dreams, even broken things find their shape again. Rain shimmered between us, falling upward and downward at once. He was standing on the other side, just out of reach, smiling that crooked, boyish smile that used to undo me. I held the yellow umbrella above us, both it stretched wide, glowing faintly, as if made of sunlight trapped in cloth. "You kept it," he said. "Of course," I whispered. "It's ugly." He laughed. "It's ours." The rain slowed, drops hanging in the air like pearls on invisible threads. He reached out, fingertips grazing mine through the curtain of water. "You did it," he said softly. "Did what you let me rest." A tear fell, though I wasn't sure whose it was. He looked at me one last time, eyes full of that same quiet defiance that used to make the world smaller, simpler. "Keep walking, June. Don't wait for the rain to stop." The world brightened behind him, silver light spilling across the bridge, turning every raindrop into glass. When I blinked, he was gone. But the umbrella was still open, still warm. I woke with the dawn. The umbrella lay beside me on the bed, dry. The note was gone. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight scattered through the wet glass of my window, bending just so. And for the briefest moment, I saw his reflection standing beside mine, smiling whole. I lifted the umbrella, pressed it gently against the window, and whispered, "Close enough to belong." The light shimmered once, then faded. And for the first time since the bridge, the silence didn't hurt. It began like any other rain, soft, gray, and ordinary. But as it fell, it didn't chill. It warmed. Each drop that touched my skin felt alive, as if the sky had decided to stop grieving and start remembering. I was standing by the river again, at the place where the bridge once lived. The wind smelled of rust and lemon peel. The world around me was quiet, too quiet, as though even time was listening. The yellow umbrella hung loosely from my hand. I didn't bother to open it. For the first time, I wanted to feel the rain. Because this wasn't just weather anymore. This was memory coming home. It had been 7 days since I found the letters. 7 days of silence, of peace that didn't quite know how to exist. And then, this morning, an envelope had slid under my door. No footsteps. No postmark. Just my name. And his handwriting. The ink was darker this time, steadier, as if written by a hand that no longer shook. June, it's time. You've read enough of my yesterdays. This one's for your tomorrow. When the rain turns warm, go to the river. Don't bring the umbrella. Just listen. So I did. The river was high, restless, swollen with the season's grief. I stepped closer, shoes sinking into the mud. The rain hit harder, but instead of biting cold, it pressed like a pulse, steady, gentle, familiar. Then I heard it. Not thunder. Not the wind. A low hum beneath everything. The same rhythm from the tape. His heartbeat. It was faint, but it was there. In the sound of water against the rocks. In the cadence of every drop that met the ground. Thump, thump, thump. And then, through the mist, I saw him. Not a ghost. Not a dream. Just Evanhole, smiling, standing where the bridge should have been. He looked exactly as he had the day before the accident. Wet hair, wrinkled shirt, eyes brighter than they should be. I didn't move. Neither did he. The rain did all the talking. It's warm, I said, half laughing, half crying. I know, he answered, though his lips never moved. The words arrived through the air, through the rain itself, as if the sky was speaking for him. You kept every letter, he said. Of course I did. You listened to the rain. I always will. He smiled. That same soft, crooked smile that could hold a whole world together. Then this is where I go, June. Not away, just forward. I shook my head, tears mixing with the rain. I don't want you to disappear. You're not losing me. You're learning to stay. And just like that, the air shimmered. The rain changed direction, falling upward for a moment. 1,000 bright drops returning to the clouds that once wept them. He stepped back, into the light. Close enough to belong, he said. And then he was gone. The rain softened into mist. And for the first time in years, it was warm enough to make me smile. I stood there until the clouds parted. The sky above me was the color of forgiveness. I whispered, "Good night, Evan," and the river answered with a shimmer that looked a lot like dawn. When I reached home, the yellow umbrella still waited by the door. I hung it up carefully, knowing I'd never need it again, because the rain no longer hurt. It remembered, and that was enough. The mail slot creaked at dawn. No thunder, no rain, just the hush of morning light spilling across the floor. When I opened the door, the street was dry, washed clean by the night before. And there it was, an envelope lying on the doormat. No stamp. No return address. Just my name, June, written in that same familiar, careful hand. The world held its breath. So did I. I carried it to the table, afraid that even touching it too hard might erase it. The paper was warm and possible, but true. As if it had been held by living hands only moments ago. The handwriting trembled less this time, as though time itself had steadied it. I broke the seal slowly, and for a heartbeat, the scent of lemon and rain filled the air. Inside, one page, nothing else. June, this is the last letter. Not because I've run out of words, but because you've learned to live without needing them. You've walked through every storm I left behind. You found warmth in the rain. That means you're ready. The day before the bridge, you told me that forever wasn't about length, was about depth. I didn't understand it then. I do now. Forever is you, reading this, breathing, still choosing to love even when love hurts. Promise me something. When it rains again, don't look for me in the clouds or rivers. Look inward. I'm there in the heartbeat that slows when you listen. I've seen where the rain ends, June. It's beautiful. It sounds like your laughter. Thank you for keeping me alive long enough to say goodbye. I read it once. Then again. Then I pressed it against my chest and closed my eyes. The room seemed to hum, soft and slow, like a lullaby played on the edge of silence. Outside, the first drops began to fall. Gentle, tentative, as if testing whether it was allowed to cry again. I stood by the window, watching the rain trace slow rivers down the glass. and somewhere between the sound of water and heartbeat, I heard him. June? It wasn't a word this time. It was warmth. I smiled, and whispered back, "Goodbye, my love." The rain answered by turning to light. Later, I placed the letter inside the yellow umbrella and tied it closed with a ribbon. Then I walked to the river one last time. The sky was a pale silver, calm and kind. I opened the umbrella, letting the wind take it. It drifted, spun, and finally landed on the water. Floating, bright against the gray, like a promise set free, it carried the letter downstream. And for a moment, the whole river seemed to glow. I didn't chase it. I just stood there, feeling the warmth of the rain on my face. It no longer felt like goodbye. It felt like continuation, the kind that never really ends. When I turned to leave, I noticed the old tin box had surfaced near the bank. The lid was open, empty. The letters were gone, and in their place, one small white flower had grown through the rust. I smiled through my tears, because maybe love doesn't fade. Maybe it simply changes form, from rain, to rhythm, to bloom. And for the first time, I felt peace. They say grief fades. They're wrong. It doesn't fade, it transforms. It becomes the warmth in a cup of coffee, the shadow beside you on a quiet walk home, the way your chest tightens when thunder rolls and you almost smile. It becomes rain. A month has passed since the last letter. The umbrella is gone, carried by the river. The house is lighter now, emptied of ghosts, but still full of echoes. Some mornings, I wake to the sound of rain on the roof and forget for a second that he's gone. And in that single second, he isn't. Today, I walked to the river again. The sky was a calm, pewter gray. Mist floated low over the water like breath. And there, near the bank, the small white flower still bloomed from the rusted tin box. I knelt beside it, tracing the petals. They were cool, wet, impossibly alive. "Hi, Evan," I whispered. The river replied with its soft, eternal murmur. I imagined it saying, "I'm listening." I sat there for hours, watching ripples fold into ripples, thinking about how love isn't supposed to last forever. It's supposed to change you. And he did. He taught me that rain isn't sorrow, it's memory, returning to the earth. Every drop a syllable of a story that never really ends. I closed my eyes, let it fall. The drops were warm again, gentle, rhythmic. And in that rhythm, I heard him. Thump, thump, thump. It wasn't a ghost this time. It was my own heartbeat. But it spoke in his language. I took out the final letter one last time. The edges soft from being read too often. I've seen where the rain ends. It's beautiful. I folded it carefully and pressed it into the soil beside the flower. Then I whispered, "Now it's your turn to stay." The wind brushed my hair across my face. A soft, familiar gesture. I smiled. Because even if he wasn't here, the rain still remembered him. And as long as it remembered, so would I. When I finally stood to leave, the sky opened up again. A steady, golden rain. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I simply walked, letting it fall on my face, my hands, my heart. Each drop felt like a word I didn't need to say, because this was no longer grief. It was gratitude. And as the world blurred beneath that gentle rain, I realized something simple and absolute. The rain remembers those who loved deeply, and sometimes, when it falls warm, it remembers for them.